you're still in that MTV family to this day, right? Because again, like we were saying, it's who you know. It's, oh, you worked on Joking. I mean, that's how I got Wild and Out. It was, oh, we know you from Joking Off. You want to consult on Wild and Off. Oh, Wild and Out. Oh, you know, do you want to be in the cast? That's how I got on the show. Like, just, you're still in that world because you've built this network, right? And it's also about people like working with you. They're going to hire you again. So it's like you are your own calling card. Like your reputation is everything in this business.
Everything.
It's like, oh yeah, Charles, we worked with him on this and this. Let's bring him in. And that's how you get in. And it's so hard to get the first couple of things that build that reputation. And to have, you know, oh, I'm friends with this person and they recommended you and I've never met you before, but now I know you. And just expanding that network. But I think it is so important for people who are trying to get into the industry to realize it's not like, there's not like a magic I'm in moment. It's constant. I still don't feel like I've made it at all.
Same.
Yeah.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Charles McBee, and welcome to How to Work in TV, where we talk to my industry peeps to find out what exactly they do in the television industry and how did they get there. Today, we got my homegirl, Julia Young, who's a writer and executive producer of the hit show Desus Mero on Showtime. And she's a former cast member of Wild and Out. If you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell so you get all the information for future episodes. And let's get into it. So the way I've kind of been starting all of these is just like, instead of going, so what do you do? What's a producer? What's that like? And like anybody can Google that shit and anybody can like, look that up. I want to kind of get to know you and a little bit about your journey and like what got us all into this thing called TV biz. So first and foremost, excuse me, where did you, I don't know if I already know this about you or not, but where did you grow up? Like where are you from?
So I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I went to University of Michigan for college. And in college, I studied like film and TV. And I in college was doing stand-up, and I also was doing improv. I started an improv group in college, which is super cool. Nice. And yeah, I definitely wanted to somehow make a career out of comedy while I was in college. That kind of is what sparked it. I mean, obviously high school too, kind of being class clowny and then being like, I don't even need to go to college, like for what I want to do. And my parents being like, yeah, but you should go though. Maybe.
Yeah, you're gonna go. No, that's so funny that you brought that up because that is a very Midwestern parent thing. Because I'm from Ohio. I didn't even know we were like, basically, Midwesties. Yeah. So like, same. Coming up, I was just like, yeah, I want to be an actor. I want to be in show business, whatever. And they were like, okay, cool. But degree. It was just like, that's just what it is. And, hey, God bless them. I use my degree for fireplace kindling in the winter. So
yeah, I was like, I don't think I like definitely use a lot of like hatred of men from my women's studies class to help me with my stand-up material. But, and I made a lot of friends, and I feel like I learned how to freestyle rap pretty well in college, but.
Which worked out for you.
Worked out for me.
In the future.
Yes,
so,
it
made it work.
College Julia had no idea. The future.
That's what's up. So, okay. So I found, a few people that I talked to that is basically has been the path. And I'm curious, and this may be speeding up a little too much ahead, but do you think that if you had started now, college would still be the path for you, or would it be more, let's make a YouTube channel? Like when I see kids getting into it now, I'm always like, okay, should they still go kind of that trajectory, or is it more about make sure your Twitter is popping, make sure your IG is popping, and that's how you get into it? Or is it both?
Yeah, that is interesting because obviously if I was starting out now, I would be much younger and I would like understand TikTok and, be more open to YouTube. But I'm also just, I don't think so interested in those formats. I think that if I was starting out, I think I wouldn't be trying to be online in that way. I mean, for me, it's Twitter and Instagram. Yeah. And even Instagram, lately I haven't really been posting that much, which is like a whole nother thing because I feel like as I've gotten more followers on Instagram, I've gotten more nervous about posting, which is not good. Of just like, what if people don't like it? Like way more self-conscious. And I feel like that happened maybe a little bit before the pandemic too, of just like when you have a bigger audience, and I don't have a huge audience, but like a couple thousand.
You popping in the streets. You popping in the streets.
But starting to be just a little bit more self-conscious of what if people don't like this? But that is the whole point of being out there, of putting yourself out there, is some people aren't going to like it. And that's honestly why I'm in therapy, is to figure out why I need people to like me.
Why you're in therapy and why you're a performer. That's pretty much, that's why therapy exists.
That's why therapy exists, for comedians. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I same, during this pandemic, I wasn't able to get, I wasn't necessarily able to get my IG and Twitter popping, but gosh darn it, that TikTok, I had the time, yo. I had the time.
It seems so complicated.
It's not that complicated. It's not. I thought so too.
Okay.
And I was just like, I went through a breakup, and it was the middle of the pandemic,
sorry.
and I was in my apartment, and I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's see what this TikTok is doing. And it's very entertaining. Very entertaining. And to the point where I was just like, all right, well, I think I can do something on here. And but also I think because the app was still relatively new back then, or at the time, not back then, but at the time, they really did a great job of pushing content and pushing, new creators. So it was easier to gain followers and gain traction. Now I think they've completely changed the algorithm.
Yeah.
Too late. I already got my followers. But I understand
Nice.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
When it's like you're just trying stuff out, and then all of a sudden you pop, and you're like way more self-conscious because more people like you, but also more people are criticizing you at the same time. Yeah, it's
I mean, you just even go on Twitter, right? And every day it's like, who's the new villain? Like, whoever's trending, they're trending because a lot of people don't like them, but then also a lot of people do like them. So you can never make everyone happy, and that's something I think it's really hard to come to terms with, that not everyone's going to find me funny, and I have to be okay with that. Otherwise, like, what am I doing? You're just paralyzed with fear then.
Right.
But I mean, I definitely felt like, in college, that it wasn't a waste of time, but it really was like, okay, let me just move to New York already, because that was the goal. And New York has always been the goal for me. It was never LA. That was never a place I was interested in. I think just because of the lifestyle, also, like, I'm not good at driving, and I'm like scared to have to like learn how to parallel park, which I cannot do. And I love seasons. Like, we're Midwesties. We like winter.
Yeah.
We love the snow. That's important.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was the same. And for me, it was a little bit of, is it New York or is it LA? A lot of, and I don't know if you had some of your alumni did this or whatnot, but a lot of creative alumni, when they come out of school in the Midwest, they go straight to Chicago
because of like improv and stuff.
Improv, it's improv theater, and it's kind of, and no diss to Chicago, but it's kind of like the safer route rather than going to New York or LA. It's just like, well, it's just right there. If things, if I need to come home, I'm like 3 hours away. I'm 2 hours, 4 hours away, or whatever.
Safer. So
yeah, it's a little safer. And I was just like, nah, son, I'm straight to. I went to New York, bypassed LA. Quick story. I've told this story before, but my initial plan was to be an actor. And I was like, well, if I want to be an actor, I heard, because I had no idea, I heard that you're respected more if you train in New York. So my plan was to go to New York, be on Broadway in like three months, be a big star, and then move to LA and then be a movie star in like 6 weeks. Like, that was my plan.
That was a smart timetable. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I figured, it would work out. So you moved to New York, and so that's interesting. So you went to school. What was your degree again? What did you say your degree was?
Screen Arts and Cultures, which is just TV and film. Yeah.
Screen art. All right. Screen Arts and Cultures. I think mine was theater and what was it? Theater and like communications or something like
Where'd
that.
you go to school?
At Bowling Green State.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very, very Midwest. And it was just kind of like, all right, what do I have to take that so my parents will not, hate me or whatever.
Not be too disappointed.
Not be too disappointed, exactly.
Yeah.
So you get your degree, you move to New York.
Yeah, moved to New
and
York
what's
like 2 weeks after graduating.
Same. Too. It was like because it was like, all right, I'm only doing this because I made a deal with my parents anyway. If it was up to me, I would have been out of here, 3 years ago. So it's like the second you graduate, you grab your diploma and you're off to New York City. Yeah, same.
Yep.
So you land in New York. Did you have a plan going to New York, or was it just like, all right, I'm here, let's see what happens?
The plan was to make it, whatever that meant. But yeah, I moved to New York without connections, without a plan. Like there's no one in my family in showbiz or, no connection. So it was kind of like, okay, I'll just try to find anything. But, definitely knowing that comedy was the goal. So, I had done improv in college. I had started my group. I had run that for a few years. And so I found work as an intern at an improv company called Chicago City Limits, which is based in New York. And they've been around, since the 70s, like OG improv, run by this husband and wife who are like eventually became kind of my adoptive parents. They took me on as an intern. And so I was working there. I was working as a waitress at a comedy club, a stand-up comedy club, and like
Which
for
one?
money. Laugh Lounge on the Lower East Side.
Laugh Lounge. I remember that. Yeah, I
closed.
remember Laugh Lounge. I remember.
Yeah, I was a hostess. I was a cocktail waitress. Yeah.
My friend Pudge Fernandez, I don't know if you were there at the time.
Yeah, he performed there. Yeah.
He had I think it was called Hot Pudge Sunday.
Yep.
Shout out to Pudge.
Definitely sat people for those shows.
Yep.
And people are always like, "Don't put me in the front," and it's like, okay, and then
it's like, all
you
right,
sit them in the front. Yeah. Yep. 2 drink minimums all day, every day. Yeah. So it was really just about kind of getting into that world, and I was so naive, right? And which I think really helped in a way.
Absolutely.
It's terrifying. Like, I feel like I was so much braver then than I am now in terms of just putting myself out there and meeting people and reaching out to people and sending my sad, empty resume out.
Right.
It felt like for me, it was like, this is the only option. This is what I'm going to do. So I will succeed because it's the only option is kind of how I said about it. So working in an improv theater, eventually they started paying me as like an associate producer, doing, more improv classes. Eventually someone got sick for one of their shows and they were like, do you want to perform in a show? And I was like, yes. And so eventually I became a member of their touring company. So travel, got paid to do improv, which was wonderful. And then around that same time, there was an email. I was like checking the inbox for the theater, and production company was like, hey, we're looking for writers for a new show, like send in a packet. So I wrote a packet, just did like a blind submission and had an interview, and I got the job, which was like my first writing job, and that was for Impractical Jokers in 2011. And so that's when it was like, oh wow, I made it. Or so I thought.
No, totally. That's definitely something that I touch on with everybody. It's just like, what was that first? So that was your first kind of like, all right, I'm a professional now. I'm a success. I'm a pro. You can tell your mom and dad, hey, I write for this show that you can watch on your TV. It's like those are those pivotal moments that, in hindsight, you kind of maybe we forget, or we kind of brush aside because we're on to bigger and better things. But at that time, that is like,
it's monumental. I remember exactly where I was when I got the phone call that they offered it to me, the amount of money they told me I was making. I didn't even try to negotiate money because I didn't know better.
You didn't know.
You're just like, yep, great. That sounds perfect. That's more money I've ever made in my life. Like, but you're naive. You're really naive when you go into these things and you don't understand And I think, it takes years and years of experience to be like, oh, okay, they didn't treat me the way I should have been treated, or, I became too close with the cast, and they, people promise you'll be on for another season and then you don't, and you take it personally, things like that. So yeah, definitely went into it really just so excited, and I thought I had made it, but it's really almost harder to get your second job than your first job.
Okay,
I think.
explain that a little bit. Why do you say that?
Because it's like first job, I did a packet, I got in, fine, great. What's next? I don't have a network after your first gig. You don't have a network. You kind of, I somehow got this job, and I have so much of, I want to say all of TV, especially in New York, it's who you know. It's
Who you know.
It's people bring you on because, oh, I've worked with them before, they're great.
Yep.
Oh, my friend
Yep.
recommended you. There's no postings on monster.com. Like,
Nope.
it's not like that. And people don't
It's
understand.
actually very secretive.
It's so secretive.
You don't even, if you don't have the right connections or the agent or the right this or that, you won't even hear that the job was even, that it even existed, that they were even
Exactly.
looking for anybody.
It is so insular. It's so tiny, and it's a lot of gatekeepers, which is why I think you see a lot of the same people writing for the same things, which is why you see a lot of white people, a lot of white men. It's the same world over and over again, just recycled. So it takes a while to get into that world, right? So it was like after my first job, I was like, what's next? And it's like, well, unemployment's next. It's hard. It was like, reaching out to a showrunner and getting hired as an AP and kind of being like, but I was a writer. And then it's like,
Right.
no, now you're going to get iced coffee and, you're going to not do so much writing.
So that's interesting. First question, how long were you at the Improv? Like, how long were you with them, with the Improv?
I kept on
company?
doing that for several years.
Okay, so
yeah,
you
I
did
was
both.
like performing on the weekends. I was, going to different cities and traveling. I was teaching improv. It was more of like the side gig, but then it, as I would, I got a writing job, so I was there less, and then after that ended, I was there a little bit more. But
How long were you there prior to the writing job?
like about a year, I want to say.
That's actually a phenomenal success story and something that I rarely hear about.
Yeah.
In New York for a year and you land a professional writing
Yeah.
gig. So that's
Yeah.
it's a testament to your talent, but also it's just one of those like, holy shit, like it just and as you said, it's harder to get that second job.
Yeah.
But was it also harder to get that second job because from your frame of reference, you had gotten the first job in a relatively fast amount of time?
Yes.
So what was your perspective? Just maybe like just different. It was just like, oh, things are supposed to just happen like this, and it's like, because that's
Yeah.
kind of how it happened for me in stand up. It was just like I burst through the scenes, I was getting booked on stuff, and then all of a sudden it was just like, all right, you're not the fresh fish anymore, and it was just cold. So
Yeah, it is kind of jarring to be like, wait a second. What? I thought I was good. Now I'm not good.
yeah.
Definitely that feeling. And yeah, I think because it had been relatively easy for me to get my first job and it was so much fun and I loved it. And, they told me I was coming back for season 2 and that didn't end up happening. There was a lot of reshuffling. You know how the executives work. You don't know how they work, right? People change their minds. So it was like it was a period of underemployment is what I will say,
Yeah.
for several months and being like, am I ever going to get a job? Like, I remember I trained for one day as a barista at a cafe. And then I was like, no, I need to just hustle harder to work in
Yeah.
TV. Like, I can't do this.
That's a jewel right there. And not to cut you off, but that's just I like that because I've been in that situation where you're like, you know what, F it, I'm gonna just go work at. I remember I had a stack of not resumes, applications to wherever, applications, Barnes and Noble, wherever, and I was ready to go. I had them all filled out. Was ready to go, hand them in, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to just ride this thing until the wheels fall off. I'm going to just hustle harder. I'm going to just give it everything I got. And not until it's absolutely necessary will I turn this in. If I got a little bit of money to pay rent and get a dollar slice, I'm going to just keep hustling and see what happens. But that's I've definitely been there.
Yeah, and I didn't want to. I wanted to also, I think, prove that I could do it. Like,
Yeah.
I did not want to be one of those people in their young 20s who's like, Mom, Dad, send me $600. Like, I really felt like that would be admitting failure. Like, I needed to prove to them as much to myself that this is a real career. I can make it. Like, I'm funny enough. I'm talented enough. You don't have to send me any money. I'm okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also, I was living I was living in a teeny tiny room. I was paying $650 in rent.
$650, baby.
Right.
When
That's
did
a
you
sweet
come to New
spot.
York? When did you move to New York?
So December of 2009.
I came in 07. That 650 was like standard. If you were on Craigslist or wherever and you were looking for a room,
friend of a friend. Yep.
650. That was it. You can get you a little bedroom somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you? What borough? Like
I
where?
was in
what part?
Harlem. I was
Okay.
in Harlem in like a building. It was I think it was like a 3-bedroom with these 2 other people. One of them had a huge room. I had like literally only a lofted bed and a tiny dresser, and that was it. And I was so happy. Like, I made it work, because I think it was also something I still keep with me is like living below my means, because it's always like I could always go back there, right? Like that kind of fear of being in an industry where there is no stability. Not that there isn't in any industry, but it feels so fleeting here. It feels like, I could lose my job at any minute. I could get fired and be unemployed for the rest of my life. Like, I need to save money. I need to have that cushion. It's haunting almost.
I think that fear it's haunting and maybe a little necessary.
Yes.
Partly because I feel like we're cut from the same cloth, because I'm the same way. Live below your means. It could all go away tomorrow. Not wanting to ask your parents for money. And I'm sure, coming from the Midwest, you probably had a lot of friends and family who are looking at you sideways, like, wait, what? You're going where to do what? How?
Bless your heart. Yeah,
exactly. A lot of bless your heart. So that's definitely something that a mindset that you keep with you.
Yes.
Now, when you so you get the gig, it's a great opportunity, but they don't ask you back, and it took, you said, several months to get the next gig.
Yeah.
What was the next gig, or what? Or what was the next gig that made you go, oh, okay, I'm still in this. I'm still in the game.
I think it was, it was like some AP work. It was, a pilot that didn't get picked up, and then it got picked up on a different network. And then I was a writer's assistant for a sketch show on True TV. And that's when I was like, okay, this is a WGA show. I'm not in the WGA, but I'm a writer's assistant. So that's where it kind of felt like I was so close to doing what I wanted, of like, oh, I'm working with the writers, but I'm not actually, they don't think I'm good enough to actually write the sketches. I'm taking down notes and putting up note cards and push pins,
Right.
But it felt at least like I was on set. I'm pitching ideas. I'm really trying. So that definitely was in, I don't know, 2014 or something, a True TV sketch show. And, it's wild. It was called Friends of the People.
I remember, Jermaine and the Lucas Bros and Kevin.
Look at who was on that show. Jermaine Fowler, the Lucas brothers, who just got nominated for an Oscar.
Like, shout out to them.
Wild. Lil Rel Howery, who is blown up.
Yeah.
Like, just incredible people. So that was frustrating in a way, because I was like, hey, I was already writing. There's this kind of, chip on my shoulder of like, I've been doing this for years, guys. Why won't you hire me for what I want to be doing? And people still thinking you have to pay your dues, which, it's fair to think that.
When it's interesting that you you mentioned you were a writer, you were an AP, but your initial goal was to move to New York to be a performer, which, same, again, I feel like we're cut from the same cloth. Do you think that it's necessary for people to when they're getting into this, especially when you're young and you're moving to New York or LA from bumfuck wherever, to already have that mindset of I'm going to have to do multiple things? Or is it just a matter of you just knowing you have different skills and different talents and you just putting them all to use?
I think it's really important to do it all. Like, I knew I wanted to be a comedian. What does that mean? In college, I wrote a pilot for 30 Rock, and that won an award. And to me, there was so much power in that, of being like, I am good enough as a comedian to write in other people's voices. So kind of putting together writer, performer together, and then adding in producer, adding in all these other on-air talent, behind camera stuff. And now I feel like my advice is like, become a Swiss Army knife. Be able to do it all. I can do stuff. I can do on-air things. I can write. I can produce. I can be in the edit. I can post-produce. These things just make you more hireable. And so, I have had 2 different experiences where I was brought in for a show to be, a consultant or a writer. And then the next season they were like, do you want to be on camera? And it's like, yeah, I absolutely do. And you can see from the jokes I'm giving other people, how I'm pitching, that I am a performer and I would be great on this show. And that's happened twice. And that to me is just kind of proves that it's all very, very connected.
Absolutely. I think that getting into this, for me, I kind of stumbled into the TV world. In fact, I think you were a part of my first ever official quote unquote TV production, behind the scenes gig. It was for Joking Off. That was, I came into audition and, MTV was like, we already have a black guy like that.
Right.
And
we're
so,
good. Thanks though.
yeah, we're good.
We're
good.
all full.
We're all full here. But Mike, shout out to Mike Cantor. He was just like, hey, we really like you. We really like the jokes that you're bringing in. Come and if you work with us and we'll ease you in. And that was kind of like the launching pad for that. But it was, and from then it was a learn on the job kind of thing. I never knew, like, you wrote a pilot. I don't think, if I did ever write something other than jokes, jokes, it wasn't anything that remotely looked professional. Certainly not anything I would put on a resume. I did do a web series that I was very proud of. And that's another jewel, like, for people out there, do your own shit. Write your own pilots, write your own web series, produce your own web series, because by the time I had gotten into television, that was my only official training for what I was about to do. So at least I kind of knew how to write a script and set up a shot and what a DP does and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, for television, it was one thing led to another. Hey, punch up jokes for this. Okay, the same a writer quit on a job because he got something else. I'm thinking they're gonna just hire another real writer and I'll just keep punching stuff up. He's like, no, you'll sit in that seat and you'll learn the job. You'll learn what a SOT is. Like, I had no idea what this shit was.
Shout out to SOTs.
Shout out to SOTs. So yeah, same. It's, learning as you go, and it forces you and throws you into the ocean and forces you to swim. You're going to pull out, all the stops, and you're going to have a lot of skills that you're going to pick up along the way.
Totally. And like with you, and Joking Off, and that was, 6 years ago, right? At like, you're still in that MTV family to this day, right? Because again, like we were saying, it's who you know. It's, oh, you worked on Joking. I mean, that's how I got Wild and Out. It was, oh, we know you from Joking Off. You want to consult on Wild and Off. Oh, Wild and Out. Oh, do you want to be in the cast? That's how I got on the show. Like, just, you're still in that world because you've built this network, right? And it's also about people like working with you. They're going to hire you again. So it's like you are your own calling card. Like your reputation is everything in this business.
Everything.
Because it's like, oh yeah, Charles, we worked with him on this and this. Let's bring him in. And that's how you get in. And it's so hard to get the first couple of things that build that reputation. And to have, oh, I'm friends with this person and they recommended you and I've never met you before, but now I know you, and just expanding that network. But I think it is so important for people who are trying to get into the industry to realize it's not like there's not like a magic I'm in moment. It's constant. I still don't feel like I've made it at all.
Same.
Yeah. I feel very unsuccessful.
we were just talking a little bit before this, but it still feels like, and maybe we are in retrospect, I don't know, but it still kind of feels like we're babies.
Yes.
And like, it's just, we were mentioning, joking off, it feels like that was just like last week, but then it's like, no, that was 6 years ago. It's so weird because we're constantly moving.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next thing?
And we're coming up with people who are also blowing up, right? It's like,
right.
I am a writer and producer on Desus Mero. I was cast members with Desus Mero 6 years ago on Joking Off. Just being like, oh, yeah, friends with Jermaine, who was in Coming to America, 8 years ago. And then just it is also hard just to not compare yourself with peers, because it's also it's different paths. We're all on different paths.
I learned that a long time ago. My friend Khalid once told me, he goes, I don't know, I'm probably screwing this up, but something along the lines of someone else's path is not your cross to bear. And that was really a hard pill to swallow because, I came up with all those guys. The friends that I remember going to the movies one night. And I don't know if you remember, I forget which theater it was. It wasn't AMC, it was the other one in Times Square. And it was the one where you go up that long escalator, like several stories up. And I remember one night I was going up the escalator to see whatever movie, and to paint the picture, you're going up this escalator and it's this giant window that you can look out into Times Square. And so as I'm going up the escalator, I look out the window and there's this giant billboard of Friends of the People. It's Jermaine, Lucas Brothers, Kevin, God bless his soul, Lil Rel, all people, I didn't know Rel, but all people that I literally started with. And I'm going to see, whatever film because I had no spots, because I had no shows that night that nobody booked me on. And talk about humbling. Humbling. But
humbling.
Totally. But what I've learned to do is to just to block that out, and it's not block that out in the sense of you're not rooting for your friends and your peers, but just keeping your own mental and emotional well-being in check and just going, okay, what's my path, and my successes are my successes, and my path is my path. And also knowing that there's a shit ton of people who are looking at you and where you are right now and going, oh my God, how do I get to where Julia is? Or, I was with Julia in Improv at Chicago Second City. Like, I was with her, and now she's on Desus Mero and winning awards. Like, so there's always that perspective.
It is. It's true. It's so hard to see yourself as successful or where you want to be, because it's like, well, we're living it. It is very hard. But yeah, it's like I've had, some coffee dates pre-COVID with, my cousin's in college and trying to get into the industry, and I'm like, well, why would they want to talk to me? I don't know what I'm doing. But
right.
Yeah, it is really important to not compare yourself, but it's easier said than done.
Now, did you as we're going through and kind of hitting on some of the things, because you've done so much within the biz, were there moments where you got a job, because you mentioned you went from a writer to a PA and for like you said, for people who don't know, a PA is basically a production assistant. You do whatever people need you to do. It's an important job, but it's on the lower end of the of the totem pole. Still important nonetheless. It's right above probably intern, I would say. And but when you're getting these different jobs, you're a producer here, you're a writer here, you're this, that here. Did you know what these jobs entailed prior to getting these jobs? Or was it kind of like, all right, I got offered this gig, I need the experience and the money, I don't know what I'm really supposed to do, but I'm going to learn and figure it out? Or did you already know? I
mean, I got hired as like a script supervisor on an indie film and when I at a time when I really needed a job, and I was like, what the fuck does a script supervisor do? But I'll
Right.
figure it out. And I was Googling things, but I was Googling things and getting results back from when like they used film where you're like cut, print,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And it's like that's not how it works anymore. It's
That's
very
not how it
different.
works
You
at
do
all.
as many takes as you need because it's digital. So it was, I had to learn about continuity and page counts and all that stuff. And it was a lot of fake it till you make it and learning on the job because I needed the job. And then, from that little indie film, making connections, and the director brought me on to something else. So there's, and also in every job, the titles that they have mean different things. Even in television, it's like an
Right.
AP, an associate producer on one show, can have very different responsibilities than an AP on another show. So yeah, it's always going to be different, and it's always a learning curve. And then, it also depends on the production company or the showrunner or the other staff. And that environment also makes a huge difference.
Yeah, you cannot be afraid to learn on the job and kind of fake it till you make it.
And
You know,
ask
that doesn't,
questions too.
and 1000%.
Yeah.
That is, going back to that first official writing gig that I had. I was at shout out to Kat, shout out to Kat McAlew. I don't know, I always mess her last name up.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I was asking her like,
Yeah.
I was just like, what does this mean? What does this mean?
Yeah.
And she was so friendly and so nice and just like, let it kind of like, oh, this is what that does. Oh, don't worry about that. I'll take care of that. But yeah, being unafraid to ask questions. If you don't know, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
People are there to support you, and not being afraid. Oh, they're gonna think that I'm an idiot. To this day, I still feel like every time I get a gig, I feel like I'm gonna get a tap on my shoulder, going, "No, that was a mistake. You're not qualified for this. Come
Go
with
home.
me. Yeah, go home. Go home.
Give me your badge.
It-
Yeah.
Yeah, you turn it in at the desk. But you'll feel that way, but just keep showing up, keep being professional, be professional, don't be an asshole, and
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. One quick question, and then I want to get into current things you're doing currently. Along this journey, and this is something I ask a lot of people. Was there anyone that you learned from, or was there a mentor, or were there mentors plural, or was it just kind of like you just picked things up here and there?
When I first started out, there was a showrunner who I thought was a mentor, but I think she was using me. And I have heard a similar story from other people. I won't name this person, but
Right.
essentially would kind of prey on young people in the business and pretend to be a mentor, and then get these people to just kind of do all of her menial tasks and not pay a lot of money.
I've heard of these things. I've heard these stories. I've heard these stories.
So then at a certain point, you're like, wait a second, you're not paying me what I'm worth, and you're taking
Right.
advantage. And I was like, wait, every job I've gotten with this person, I've always stayed the same level or gone down. I should be moving up. Like, this doesn't make sense. And now I have a mentor who actually is the showrunner of my current show. And she's incredible and so smart, and has just given me advice about, hey, you should tell your managers they should be doing this, or, I think this makes sense for you as a career move, or have you thought about this? It's really invaluable, and I wish that I kind of had more people in my life that I could go to for help, because I think I could really benefit from other people's perspectives, because it's so hard to see your big picture. Other people can see your big picture a lot easier than you can. Yeah,
totally. That's why even now I try to pay it forward for people who are coming up, because there were certain people who kind of looked out and gave me advice along the way, and I think that's important. That even if you don't have one person who holds your hand the entire time, but just seeking out knowledge and seeking out information from people who have been doing it longer than you. And, even with your situation with the, the person who will remain unnamed, like even being able to go to peers who have been doing it long and going, hey, I'm experiencing this. This doesn't feel right. What do you think? Or did you ever go through this? Like people will be your kind of sounding board, and they'll be your safe haven, and you can gain a lot of knowledge. Also, as you said, though, having your wits about you and knowing when you can, knowing when you're being used maybe and stuff like that, trusting your intuition and your instincts. But yeah, if you find someone who is genuinely, guiding you and genuinely you can gain knowledge from them, soak it up, get all the knowledge you can, because it just helps you. It just helps you along the way.
Yes, exactly.
So, all right. Currently, you are writing, producing for Desus and Mero, two guys that I love dearly. As you said, we worked with them many moons ago, and just watching what they've been able to do is incredible. How did you get the gig?
Yeah.
And what does your role entail today?
So I got the gig because going back several years, I was unemployed, between gigs at the time, and I reached out to a contact I had at Vice. And they were like, hey, we don't have this for you, but we have a late night show that's looking for someone. And they brought me in. It was for Desus and Mero on Viceland. And so I was, a producer on that show. And then they decided not to renew, and then Viceland canceled them. And then they brought me with him when they moved to Showtime, because, I knew the guys, I had a relationship with them. I knew how to produce them. And then I started as an A block producer, which is like the main segment of the show where they watch, the SOTs and comment on them. And then I became a writer because, I was helping with the scripts and stuff. So that was kind of my journey of like nothing is linear, right? It's just like, oh, I met you, and then 4 years later emailed this person who happened to, it's all... none of it makes sense. But yeah, so as a producer on this job, so it's like identifying what news stories they should talk about, what we think is in the news that needs their commentary. Figuring out which stories, which thoughts, which topics, pitching those, deciding, script order, how many stories we should be doing. Then it's writing the throws to the stories. Then I physically have all these laptops and monitors on my desk. And when we're taping, I'm starting and stopping the SOTs for the guys, because I can see, they probably have a joke here. Right. They ask me information about a story. I have a research packet that the producer, the research team has done. So I'm like, Vin Diesel's net worth is 200 million. And I'm my microphone, I'm talking back and forth with them. We're taping, we tape, for an hour or so. And then, in quarantine, we tape 2 days ahead. Just because of the edit schedule. So then I work with an editor over Zoom the next day, and we edit down the pieces where I'm like, keep this joke in, cut that, let's do this here, we have a graphic here, consulting legal notes, we can only use 25 seconds of this SOT for legal, counting that out. So really just, whittling down these longer pieces, 19 minutes of taping to 3 minutes and 30 seconds of the best stuff, making it flow. And then, showing that to the producer, he makes his cuts, then, and his edits, then, doing the final touches and screening that for Desus and Mero, getting any notes that way. And then the next day doing a final pass, making sure everything's correct. So it's very different than on any other show. And, it's managing, my team of research producers, of, segment producers. It's working with the writers. I'm also pitching sketch ideas. So yeah, it involves a lot, and it's really crazy and fun. And, I think hopefully we'll go back to the studio soon when people are vaxxed, and it'll be, more of the vibe that we're used to. But I think we also learned how to get the show on the air really well in the pandemic. And I know it made people's mental health better also to watch the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one thing that, it's one thing about working on these shows is that even though you're wearing several different hats here. You're editing, you're producing, you're even directing at some certain points, you're writing. But then you come out of it with all these different skill sets. You come out, it's like going into the gym and working out every single muscle. And by the time you move on to something else, now all of a sudden you're qualified to run a studio or what, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just
It's
it's
true.
taking all of that, even though it's fun and it's great, but it's taking all those skill sets. I feel
Hmm.
like with each job that I've gotten, I've come out of it with a new skill set,
Yeah.
which is kind of great because it's kind of like getting paid to go to TV college in a way.
Hmm.
Even though you have to show up
Yeah.
and do your thing, but you're going to come out of this even more marketable and,
Yeah.
and being able to
Right.
demand more money,
And
hopefully.
hopefully be able to, show run and not be terrified, because it's such a
That's
scary word, but it's like, no,
right.
I could show run. I've done all of these things. It's about me
Hmm.
believing in myself that I have had these, 10 years of experience. I know how to do these things.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
totally. Now, okay, so I've so many jewels that we've learned today. Network.
Yes.
And build your network and utilize your network. And even though you might be a performer, that still doesn't mean you get to be sloppy and you
Hmm.
get to just be willy-nilly. Like you are a business, so
Yes.
you have to operate as a business. So if
Yes.
it's sending out Christmas cards to executives that you've worked with, I have a list of every executive, every
You're really
director,
good at that.
every
You are very good at staying in touch and like thanking people. You
yeah,
really are.
got to stay in
Hmm.
touch and stay in the loop,
Hmm.
and seeking knowledge wherever you can. Just
Hmm.
building relationships. It's such a cliche, but it really is who you know. So
Yes.
building the relationships, being professional, and not being an asshole.
Yes.
One last question,
Yeah.
because I know your time is very precious.
Hmm.
Uh, if you could name one moment in this business, it's something I ask everybody
Hmm.
in this business where you said to yourself, holy shit,
Hmm.
like I can't believe I'm here right now, or I can't believe I get to do this, or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Like just one moment. And I know there's many, but
Yeah.
what's that one moment?
Um, for some reason, it's okay. I got to be, I got to do a show with Wild and Out on one of their tours, and they came to Barclays Center, and they like sold out Barclays Center,
Yeah.
and I got to be there, and so I was on stage at Barclays Center, you know, telling jokes and fucking around and being silly, and it was like Beyonce was on this stage. Like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
just like realizing the enormity of that, and I have like a couple friends in the audience, and it's like, what the fuck? This is incredible. I performed at Barclays Center. And then
Yep.
walking back to the train after the show, waiting for my train, and someone being like, "Oh, she just on stage." It's like, yeah, that's. I feel like such an apt depiction of our lives. It's like, I'm doing this
Yep.
incredible thing, and then I take the train home, and then I'm
Yep.
like, what's the next job? I don't know.
Yep.
So it's like so many highs and so many lows.
That is
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah,
Julia, thank you so much.
of course.
I appreciate you. I always enjoy when I get to work with you, when I get to chop it up and build with you. Very
Ditto.
proud of your continued
Thank
success,
you.
and I can't wait to see you again in the real world when the
Yes.
earth starts spinning again.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so proud of you, and this is so great.
Dope. Jewels, thank you. I
Of
appreciate it.
course.
That was
Thank
dope.
you.